Hello makers! I know that you are probably as excited as I am about the new Tim Holtz Sizzix Halloween release for 2023. And so as you can see, I have two of the new dies here in front of me. This is Big Frights and this is Edison Colorize. Now I'm not going to be using the Edison Colorize as a colorize. I'm just going to use the shape. And we're also going to use the Big Frights, at least one of them. The other thing that I'm going to be using is some of the huge stamp collection that I have inherited from a family friend. And so I went through and I pulled some kind of portrait stamps in purple, some grays, and also orange. So I'm going to be using those as well. I may also use a texture fade or a background die, so we'll see how that goes. But I have my paper cut over here in an A2 size. This is actually just a little bit smaller so that when I do put it on the A2 card, it will have an 1/8 of an inch reveal all the way. So these have been cut down to 4 by 5 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will be moving these out of the way, and I'm going to take and cover each one of these with orange stamps on this one and purple stamps on this one. So when you come back, I will have adhered them to this, and I just use a little bit of Distress Collage Medium on the back. And then I press each one down all the way around. Now that I have the stamps on the base paper, I'm going to color the portion that's going to go over it. And this is also the part that I'm going to cut the shape of Edison out of. So I want to color it, and I want to use some of the new Distress Mica Stains Unraveled. I think this is a really cool kind of pairs with antique linen perfectly. So I'm going to spray some antique linen on here. And then get a little of the Unraveled as well. And water. For some reason, my sprayer's been acting strange. All right. Dry. I think that looks great, and I don't know if it shows up in the light, but it has a wonderful warm unraveled shimmer to it. So I like that. I think that's going to go great with this. And so this will be a matte around this, and then this will have Edison cut out of it. So I think those are going to go well together. Next, I'm going to cut Edison out, and then I'll emboss it. So I'll come back in between each of those steps. I've cut the Edison shape out of that background that I made. So basically I'm left with this shape from Edison. So I could actually use this as the base for one of the Edison colorized dies if I wanted, because this part would show through, and I think that's a nice warm glow. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'll put this back in with all of my Edison dies. So these are the layers that would go on there, and so I could use that if I wanted. Okay, so that goes back. Now I want to add some texture to this. I could leave it like this, but I really feel like I want to add a little texture to it. So I'm going to run it through this tapestry just to give it a little texture. And I want this thin part raised. So I'm going to go ahead and place the blank side down so that these thin parts will push up and the flatter parts will push down and be debossed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think that looks good. I'm concerned it might be a little busy, but we'll see once I get everything else on here. I'm going to put a few bats. So I'm going to be cutting the bats out of the black and gray stamps that I have over here. And I just put, several different colors down. I wasn't sure what I wanted to use. So, and then I'll cut the sentiment out of the purple stamps. So before I do that, I am going to go around everything with antique linen, this and the edges of this, but I want to see what I think about just going pad to paper over those raised areas to kind of bring them out. I think that looks cool. I'm not sure that's going to work for this card, but maybe it might be a little busy. And this might not be the best. I may not want that black background. I want to go. I think that was a little causing problems too. So I think if I just do a cream background, I think that'll be better. Not sure if I like this yet. All right, let's just keep going and see what we end up with. I decided to go a completely different direction than the light color with the tapestry texture fade. I think this is really cool, and so I saved it because I want to use it on something else. But I felt like I wanted something more dramatic, and so I just used the black heavy stock. I really do love the kind of velvety feel to this distressed black heavy stock. All I did was go ahead and emboss it with the tapestry texture fade, and then I went over it pad to paper with the black soot oxide, so it doesn't jump out at you, but it did highlight the raised areas of the tapestry just slightly so that you can see a pattern, but it doesn't overwhelm you. I felt like this was competing with all of the pattern in the back with the stamps, and this doesn't compete with the stamps. And actually, I felt like it kind of let that pumpkin pop a little bit more. So then I cut the boo and just the boo letters out of the purple stamps. So cut those out, and I decided to do my messy stitching around these instead of on the black. And so that's going to go like that. And I think it still allows the pumpkin to show through that way, since it's kind of highlighted with the black outline. Then I cut a few bats from this kind of taupey beige grayish stamps. I kept these out, but the light color on the portraits just really stood out too much and looked weird. So I felt like this was a better option. So this is what the bats look like. So I'm going to put a big one down here, and then I have two small ones to kind of fit like this. Over here. And I think that's pretty much going to do it for me. I like all of the texture. I like how this is popped up with just pop dots, foam dots. And so I like the way that looks. And it adds, again, even more dimension to the whole thing. I haven't attached it to the card base yet, but I'm just going to go with black card base to, again, highlight the stamps and the pumpkin. And, you know, I think it just all works really well together. So then the dark really also softens this boo. because again, with this, the boo was standing out, but you really lost the pumpkin in the whole thing. So I think this really is the answer. Everything's adhered, and this is how the card turned out. I do like it a lot. It is a simple card to make once you get the elements put together and you decide what you're going to do. If I hadn't stopped and like redesigned, it probably would have gone a lot faster, but now you know, and you don't have to go through any of that. So a couple of details. I do love the embossed background with that texture that I highlighted just a little bit with the black soot distress oxide, and that's that tapestry distress folder texture fade. And then I went with the bats from the Bold Frights, so it does come with a few shapes on here as well as the sentiments. And originally I had thought I was going to use these from the Moonlight set, but then I thought, why would I do that? Why do I need to add another set when I have bats right in here? So that's what I used, and cut those out of postage stamps as well. The boo with all the messy stitching, instead of going around the outside like I usually do, did it all on the sentiment from, again, Bold Frights. Then these are popped up with foam dots, and the back is popped up with foam dots. The bats are just adhered right onto the card. And if I wanted, I only adhered them in the center, so if I wanted, I could give it a little bit of dimension by pulling their wings up and shaping them if I want. So I never, usually on my bats, I don't attach the wings, because then I can shape them just a little bit, kind of like that, and giving them some shape like they're flying. Okay, so you can do that, or you can keep them flat, either way. I'm just really glad I got to use some of my postage stamps that I have from the big collection that I inherited, so I'm really glad about that. All right. If you have any questions about this project, go ahead and ask in the comments below or on my blog at playswellwithpaper.blogspot.com. I'll be glad to address any of the things that I didn't go over, I didn't cover during this brief tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. You know, I do put a lot of time into these, even though some of them are shorter, some of them are longer, but I put a lot of time into all of them, so it really makes me feel good when you watch, and I just thank you so much for that. Really, truly do thank you. And with that, I want to wish you a very creative day.